We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. Before I get into the book, it's important to get into the author. So Yevgeny Zamyatin, he was born on February 1st, 1884 in Lebedian, Russia, and died March 10th, 1937 in Paris, France. He was a former prominent Bolshevik in the Bolshevik Party. He was one of the first Soviet dissidents, and this book caused his exile to France. The publishing of this book is complicated. So it was written in 1920 to 21, published in English in 1924. It was the first book to be banned publishing by the Soviet Censorship Board. The book was smuggled to the West where it was allowed publishing. The outrage it caused in the Communist Party is what allowed his exile request to be granted. Its first publication in the Soviet Union was in 1988. So, the summary of the novel. This book takes place in a future dystopian society where names are replaced with numbers, the earth is now called the one state, and the benefactor is the president of the one state. It is written in journal entries with subtopics. Every hour of one's life is directed by the table, which states what you are to be doing and when every day. It is based on the final days of the building of the integral spaceship, meant to take over other worlds and change their way of life to the ways of the one state. It is centered around the integral's creator, D503, as he is introduced to a whole new world, essentially through the ancient house, by a girl named I330, who he ends up falling in love with. During the book, D503 gains a soul, which he believes to be a disease, and ways of the one state are strictly mathematical. Yet I330 calls him a mathematical philosopher. In the book, we are also introduced to his friend R13 and his former lover and friend O90, who he impregnates at her wish, even though she would have to give the child over to the one state. Once D503 sees the world that is outside the green wall, in which he has never been past, since he has been stuck inside his whole life in a world of glass, literally. He changes his way of thought and wants to get O90 out of the one state past the green wall, so she doesn't have to give up the child to the one state and can be with the Mephi outside the wall. He also learns that he has drops of forest blood in him, as he has really hairy hands, and the people who live on the other side of the green wall look similar to the prehistoric people. In his last journal entry, D503 indifferently relates that he has been forcibly tied to a table and subjected to the Great Operation, which has recently been mandated for all citizens of the one state in order to prevent possible riots. Having been psychosurgically refashioned into a state of mechanical reliability, they now function as tractors in a human form. This operation removes the imagination and emotions by targeting parts of the brain with X-rays. After this operation, D503 willingly informed the benefactor about the inner workings of the Mephi. However, D503 expresses surprise that even torture could not induce I330 to denounce her comrades. Despite her refusal, I330 and those arrested with her have been sentenced to death under the benefactor's machine. Meanwhile, the Mephi uprising gathers strength. Parts of the green wall have been destroyed, birds are repopulating the city, and people start committing acts of social rebellion. Although D503 expresses hope that the benefactor shall restore reason, the novel ends with one state's survival in doubt. I330's mantra is that just as there is no highest number, there can be no final revolution. This book was nothing short of a glimpse into a possible dystopian future. Now, Frederick Winslow Taylor is a real historical figure who D503 mentions multiple times. He was a mechanical engineer who sought out to improve industrial efficiency. D503 takes his scientific management principles and uses those principles in his way of building the integral. So those principles of management are replace rule of thumb work methods with methods based on scientific study of tasks. Scientifically select, train, and develop each employee rather than passively leaving them to train themselves. Provide detailed instruction and supervision of each worker in the performance of that worker's discrete task. And divide work nearly equally between managers and workers so that the managers apply scientific management principles to planning the work and the workers actually perform the tasks. So D503 takes these methods and uses them for building the integral and tells the reader how they are part of daily life in the one state and how it keeps the one state steady. Now, the society itself. The society in which they lived had the motto of for the benefactor, for the numbers, for the one state, which is essentially for the, as we might call the president, for the people, and for the earth. Everything in the society had an order, and nothing was ever to change. And whoever did commit a crime, like the poet who sat beside R13, was under the benefactor's machine and killed. Everyone did everything at the same time every day, and everyone could see each other all the time, since all the buildings, the chairs, everything, the tables, was all made of glass. Even their eating had an order, as you had to chew each bite 50 times. They were allowed 2 free hours at 1600 and 2200. And lots of the free hours were mainly used for the pink coupons, which are mentioned often in this book. In one sense, R13, O90, and D503 had a conversation during one of those free hours. Now, the pink coupons themselves. So the pink coupons, you register for the person you want to have a pink coupon for. A pink coupon is a punch card, essentially, for sex, as the one state considers it a natural human need, but the one state still needs to be in control. This also allowed you to lower your shades, so you could have the opportunity to speak to one another without others viewing, like R13, D503, and O90 did. D503 was registered to O90 and later to I330. That is the reason why D503 is the one who impregnated O90. So D503, the writer of the story, he is a co-builder of the integral. He is a mathematical philosopher. He finds rational, useful, and limitation all beautiful things. He is almost a robotic person based strictly in logic, but throughout the book begins to change. When he starts dreaming and having a soul, he gets very afraid and believes them to be illnesses. Now, emotion is very limited in him, next to nil, until he meets I330. And then he starts getting scared because emotion comes into his life. He ends up snitching, since he is still deeply stuck in the ways of the one state. Yet you learn, as you read more in depth, that the benefactor decided to make everybody snitch. I330. So she was a rebel, and in that case, a rebel meant drinking, smoking, wearing clothes that are not the unif, drinking D503 called drinking poison. So she was definitely a rebel in everybody's eyes. She was extraordinarily brave, sneaky, and strong. She lacked limitation, which made D503 quite nervous because limitation is something he loved. Her sneakiness ends up being a lifesaver for O90, which we will see in a moment. Now, she and D503 fall in love, which is new and scary for them both, and does not end well. There can be no final revolution, which is a famous thing she says in this book, since D503 mentions multiple times that there's no final number. Now, she never gives up on her friends, even when faced with death. She never told anybody anything, and she never gave up on them. And that led to her untimely death. Now, the Methi and the lower world. The Methi was an organization formed outside the Green Wall, wanting to take down the one state. They want to reunite the citizens of the lower world and of the one state's dystopian society. And they want to have the birds fly again, which is a popular thing they say multiple times. I-330 and Dr. S are main components to the Methi revolution. They live inside the one state, but help the Methi outside the Green Wall via tunnels under the ancient house. Now, D503 has lower world blood in him with his hairy hands, as the lower world citizens are more prehistoric looking, and he has a hard time believing this, but later accepts it. Now, O90, she is an example of how human nature will always win. Her rebellious instincts are often hidden with her calm demeanor. She wants a child, so she got D503 to impregnate her. Now, she just simply can't have the one state take the child away as she goes through her pregnancy, and she ends up getting away with the child into the wilderness and is on the run with the help of all her friends that she has out there, the ones that she has out there, because her other fellows back in the one state have either been lobotomized or killed. She is something that represents a better tomorrow. Now, freedom in the one state is something that there is none of. When something is a totalitarian state, there is no freedom within it. So free thinking is something for the ancients, which they do mention. People who fight to have the idea of freedom reinstated tend to be the victims of the benefactor's machine, which isn't good. Now, the title "we" I find important because it can be taken in two different ways. One, the people that D503 is writing about as the we, and two, the readers as the we, because we are reading it, but they are the people inside it. So they can be we and we can be we. Now, the legacy of this novel. It is known as the first Russian sci-fi novel, and George Orwell has said multiple times that this novel inspired his legendary 1984. And hints of this book spread throughout literature today in novels such as Divergent and so on and so forth. And yes, that's all, folks. Thank you very much.